I think the number one thing that I always have felt from my dad and still to this day is just this unconditional love. Fathers have such an important role with their sons as well, but especially with their daughters. And it really all boils down to communication. How do we communicate with this little human being growing and evolving and changing? You're modeling basically her first relationship with somebody of the opposite sex. And it's like if you're responding to her with, judgment or yelling or screaming, like you probably don't want her husband to do that. If they've got ingrained in them that, no, my dad loved me for who I am. And he always showed respect for me. And so to have somebody in your back pocket year after year after year who just roots for you and that no matter what sort of mistakes you make, you're still loved. I never, ever felt like I disappointed my dad. The less you can focus on criticizing or judging her or using sarcasm, and the more you can just be very supportive and encouraging and compassionate for her struggles, I think it's going to go a long way.
Welcome to the Daughter Podcast, where fathers become everyday heroes in their daughters' lives. Grow, evolve, and lead with love. Here's your host, Oscar Peña.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the Daughter Podcast. Oscar here, your local growing girl dad. Today with a special guest, Miss Jeanine Mouchawar is going to join us to, one, talk about her experience as a daughter of a father, but also to bring a little bit of what I'm kind of afraid to really get into, but very much need, and that is a perspective of how I start to keep and build the relationship with my teenage daughter. Jeanine, how are you today?
I'm really good. Thank you for having me, Oscar. I'm excited to be here. I love what you're doing, and fathers have such an important role with their sons as well, but especially with their daughters. And I love what you're doing, and I'm happy to be a part of the podcast and joining you.
Well, we are so glad to have you, and thank you for that, because that's ultimately what the podcast hinges on, is that we are important to our daughters. So that's good. We're going to keep hinging on that. We at the Daughter Podcast have been working really hard to just put out that information, right? And if you have followed a little bit, I know you're very busy, and we're going to talk about some of the things that keep you busy. It's been a journey of mine to get information that I need, so a little bit selfish, right? But really to shorten the curve of learning so that I can just show up as best as humanly possible for my daughters at any time, right? And this is having you on here is really this culmination of bringing everything around and starting to get all the perspectives, not just the father's perspectives, but all the perspectives we can get in order to shorten that curve. So can't tell you how excited we are to have you on and give us your wisdom.
Oh, well, thank you. Your thoughtfulness and intentionality in terms of being the best dad you can be is very admirable, and you don't see it very often. So
thank you. Well, let's start with you. Give us a little bit of your background, maybe a little bit about your father and your experiences as you were growing up. And then we'll take it from there.
Sure, yeah. Well, my dad is 87 and I am 59. So I'm very, very blessed that he's still around. I would say when you asked me that question earlier, I was like, oh, gosh, I think the number one thing that I always have felt from my dad and still to this day is just this unconditional love and incredible admiration. He just thinks I'm number one gal, and so to have somebody in your back pocket year after year after year who just roots for you and that no matter what sort of mistakes you make, you're still loved. And also, of course, along the way, he would give me incredible guidance and wisdom. He'd share wisdom. But now at my age, reflecting back, it's very clear that he never like judged me, or I can't remember a harsh word, and just always every way he communicated to me was just that he thought I was like a super person, like a superwoman, a super girl. I remember when I was applying to colleges and I applied to like the top Ivy League schools. And I remember Princeton's letter coming in the mail, and it was a thin envelope, which means you're not there yet, but it means you're rejected. And I remember my dad's, I was devastated. And I remember my dad's response was like, their loss, right? They're fools if they don't realize what they're missing, it's their loss, honey. And, it was that sort of belief in me and a belief in how special I was and how capable I was really like still impacts me to this day.
Very cool. Yes, that in talking to the daughters and the daughter's perspective, I've really come to notice the little things, right? And this is something that I think some of us fathers who are trying, the fathers who are losing sleep at night because they're trying to figure out, what do I do to keep this relationship? What do I do to grow the relationship? What do I do, right? And we're over here doing these crazy things in our brains and trying to create these huge, what do they call them? Core memories and these things. And not that they're not important, and not that we shouldn't try. That's probably the key here, right? We want to be intentional. But it's been so clear that it's almost all the little things and all of the ways, the small ways that your father and other guests that we've had that just made you feel in the little moments, rather than like these. I'm sure you guys had vacations and these different things.
That's exactly what I was thinking about when you were saying all these things. We had no money.
Right.
And so we did not take vacations. And it really, he couldn't rely on those, like an experience. Like I was, grateful that I was able to give my kids. We took some cool vacations and they'll talk about them, and it does stick as a core memory. But yeah, I didn't have that growing up. And yet his belief in me instilled so much confidence and just feeling good about myself. Yeah. Which had nothing to do with any sort of vacation.
Yeah.
And so I do think that that's really what's most meaningful. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, that's okay. Exactly it is we're trying to find what that really is, right?
There's a company extremely dedicated to restoring the dignity of hard work and the relentless pursuit of greatness. That company is Fuel Hunt, and I am honored and humbled to have them as our sponsor. They have built a community that is all about choosing discipline over comfort and taking pride in the journey, because comfort is a slow death. Their clothing isn't just apparel or fight gear, it is our uniform. 100% American made, Fuel Hunt clothing is a daily reminder for me and those around me that I am committed to being among the few who truly hunt for their goals. Join the movement today and wear your ambition proudly. Everybody wants to eat, but only a few will hunt. Follow the link in the show notes and use GrillDad at checkout for 10% off your purchase.
So you don't get into your school. He's giving you, he's telling you how he feels about it. It's their loss. In other situations where maybe you worked hard, but you didn't get the end goal, right? What would you say that he did aside from that allowed you to have the confidence? Because we know those little things, right? You don't make a basketball team, or you don't make the drama, what do they call it? The drama club or what have you. Like it hurts you as a father, as a parent, to just see them like, oh, you didn't make it. But we all know that's life, right? You win some, you lose some.
Sure.
Aside from saying just the words that he told you, like what else did he allow you to do, or did he give you to get you do that?
Oh, wow. I mean, I just come back to I don't remember. I mean, I'm old now, so I don't remember like specific scenarios, but I think it was more just the feeling from him that, you know, if I didn't achieve what I wanted to achieve, that, you know, it wasn't a problem and it's going to be okay.
That you couldn't really disappoint him.
Yeah. I never, ever felt like I disappointed my dad.
That's
ever.
very cool. Yeah.
So it's interesting to talk to you about this because I haven't reflected on it all that much. It was my husband and my 30th wedding anniversary Tuesday, 2 days ago.
Oh, congratulations.
And it's like, thank you. And he called to, you know, wish us a happy anniversary. And it was just like I don't remember his exact words, but it was just the whole energy of course you made it this far and, you know, you deserve all this the happiness that you have. And just that belief in me that of course I was going to, you know, find my guy and work at my marriage, you know, and that we'd be here 30 years later.
Wow. So you just felt that from him. He didn't have to say the words.
Yeah.
It's just, he built that relationship with you.
Yeah. I can't remember what he said something like, not, of course it's 30 years, but he said something like, yeah, that's my girl, you know, something like that. And, you know, you're pretty amazing too to my husband or, you know, just something like
and you
that.
too. Yeah.
Really
Okay.
Cool. Yeah. Yeah.
That's awesome. Well, tell me a little bit about you and your background of helping parents. You know, I say fathers, but I know that your whole background is helping parents in that teenage stage. How did you get into that, first of all? And I guess as you go through, maybe give us some things you learned as you got to your teenage stage of your children.
Yeah. Thanks for asking. Yeah. So I have 3 children. They're all young adults now, but what I noticed when we got to high school is that what I was doing, which was relying on the traditional, what I would call traditional approaches to parenting, which are rewards and punishments, discipline, punitive consequences to motivate or rewards to motivate, that was not working with any of my kids.
Okay.
And my daughter, she put a lot of pressure on herself to get really good grades. Consequently, I was noticing she was like overwhelmed, stressed, anxious. And what I was doing to help her wasn't really helping her with that underlying pressure and anxiety that was going on. It seemed to keep resurfacing itself. And I remember thinking, you know, I'm a smart woman. I went to Stanford. Why can't I figure this out? But I wasn't figuring it out. And I was listening to all the podcasts and reading books and stuff, but I still couldn't figure it out. My son, my middle one, he was diagnosed with ADD and a learning disability at a young age. And his self-confidence started plummeting in high school. He started feeling not great about himself and his grades started plummeting. Consequently, he got in with a bad group of friends and started doing some risky behavior. And all of my traditional, way of parenting him was really causing him to pull away and disconnect from me and from the family. And I wasn't really helping him through his challenges. My youngest, he, had a lot of big feelings and emotions and just helping him walk through that. As much as I love my mom and dad and had a great upbringing, like it wasn't a lot about like, how are you feeling and learning how to process your emotions. So all that to say, I felt like there had to be a better way to really support our kids, just like you're seeking, like being very intentional, right? How can I connect more with my kid? How can I help them be the best version of themselves? All those things. So my son and I actually went to a program that was for both of us.
Okay.
And it was based on dialectical behavioral therapy, which is like a big word to say. We learned about interpersonal communication skills and frustration tolerance skills and mindfulness skills. how to notice our feelings and regulate them. Just all these really forms of communication that I'd never been taught. I mean, we're not taught how to communicate or to parent for that matter.
Right.
We just assume we should know how to do it and be really good at it. Kind of crazy when you think about, wait a minute, there's training for doctors, for lawyers, for policemen. Parenting, which is probably the most important job, we have zero training for.
Absolutely.
And not just that, but we expect to get it right and do it well.
Yeah.
So it is kind of mind blowing when you take a step back and think about that.
It absolutely is. I remember that exact feeling. I'm a military guy. So I got checklist. I've got
to get things done.
I got directions, right, for everything I need to do. And I remember that feeling so distinctly where they're like, okay, now you guys go home. This is my first child. And I'm like, where's the checklist? Like, what, how do I,
now what?
Yeah, I know I need to feed it and like do these things, but what about everything else? And my wife and I both looked at each other. We're like, now what? Like, what? I mean, what? How do people do this?
It's crazy.
Yes, it is. It was overwhelming. Absolutely overwhelming.
Yes, 100%.
And
it really was.
And now my wife and I are now getting into that stage. I have a 13-year-old and things are starting to change. And, I've got a couple of questions for you based on that, because you're like, you're thinking, okay, I think we got it down, right? Nope. They moved the goalposts on us, right? They moved the goalposts. And then you go back and you're like, well, okay, so I learned some with my 13-year-old now. With my middle kid, I should be okay, but they need a whole different thing. And then the new one, it's like it's overwhelming.
It is overwhelming. And I think that's why I ended up being like so interested in being a life coach for parents, because we don't have the training. We weren't taught. And it really all boils down to communication. And how do we communicate with this little human being who's growing and evolving and changing? And then we're challenged to grow and evolve and change how we're interacting with them and communicating with them. When they were little, they relied on us 100%. They needed us. And so we could tell them what to do and what they should do and offer our wisdom. And they loved it. Like most of the time we got hugs and thank you, Daddy. Thank you. I love you, Mommy. But all of a sudden they're now preteens or teenagers. They're in this huge transition. And they're trying to exert their independence, which is a natural thing for them to do. And so, of course, we have to evolve with them, right? They no longer need us to do all those things we did. And, instead of being so hands-on, they need us to be more of a teacher and a guide and a coach versus, I like to say, congratulations, you've been promoted. You're no longer a mid-level manager. You're like the CEO, You gotta lead and guide and teach and not do things for them and, help them figure things out for themselves.
Right. Well,
that's how we're going to get the best interaction and responses.
And you used a very specific word, and that was, we're now being challenged to change with them, right? And that's something that I think, and it comes with maturity as a parent and maturity as an adult, but that's something I think for me with my first daughter, that challenge became a very difficult thing because one, we don't know what we're doing, but also, and I had this conversation with someone else, all of a sudden you have this mirror, right? This kid is your mirror and they're showing you these sides of you that you didn't realize were a problem, right? And I say problem as in like the things that all of a sudden get under your skin, or the things that you start realizing that you liked a certain way, but now cannot be that way because you have this, this human that you want to help. But that mirror is the challenge. And many times, I know for me, a big point of failure when I was a new father was challenging back that mirror, right? As opposed to taking it in and almost taking the challenge to grow. It was more like, no, like, this is me. I'm going to push you back. And it's so silly. I sit back now and my wife and I talk about it. I'm like, you remember when I used to get mad at a 1-year-old? Like, how ridiculous does that sound? Right. Or even worse, when you argue with a 2-year-old and you're like, what are you doing? Like, it's not even arguing a wall. It's like your words are just going to somewhere and it doesn't matter. But it's, that's that feeling of,
but if we never learn the skills to recognize our triggers and our frustration, and then if we don't have a way to handle that and process that, we vomit it out on our kids. Like, we don't mean to,
right?
But right. And so, and these are things like, of course, most of us haven't learned how to notice that we're getting triggered and understand why we're triggered. And what do we do to calm down? All of that before we ever even talk to our child.
Right. Yes. You're absolutely right.
It takes a lot of intention, a lot of growth, self-growth and learning that most of us, don't know instinctually or naturally.
Right. And some of us are just knuckleheads. Like, it's hitting you in the head and you're still not getting it. It took essentially, for me, it took my third child getting here during COVID. And I happened to spend so much time with her that I realized, I'm like, oh my gosh, like, I screwed up these others, right? Like, all these other years, I missed time. I missed intentionality. I missed these things because it didn't register fully. Because one thing I'll maybe I'll disagree with you a little bit is that we didn't get training, but realistically we got training, right? But our parents were also doing the best they could with what they had. And so we're given some training by what we're seeing, by what we're feeling and what we're living with as we grow. It doesn't feel the same because, to your point, I mean, no one sat me down and said, like, this is how you're a parent. This is what you do. Like, that's not how it happened. But I think that's when you go back to the triggers, you start looking at, well, what was your training? Right? Right? You look backwards, you're like, oh, I did have training. Oh, now I kind of see what that is. And this is something that many men don't go after, including myself. Right. You just like, it's just not what we do. We're knuckle draggers sometimes, and we just don't want to do that. And I'm obviously generalizing, but I think it's really important to do that because, your unresolved triggers become your children's problems. And that's something that really, I don't want to happen.
Yeah. None of us do. Right. But yeah, you're right. We do have training, but our training is our experience in childhood.
Yeah, that's right.
And what we saw modeled. And, the approach that most of us were raised with based on those like rewards and consequences, sometimes there's a time and place for them, but most of the time that's not an effective way to raise a child who is, has emotional wellness and mental well-being. And you need those two things in order to be successful at school and in a job. And if you're, missing that, instead, your parents are always disappointed in you or shaming you. It's very difficult to have confidence in yourself. And if you don't have any self-worth or self-confidence, it's a recipe for disaster in your teenage years.
Wow. Well, let's move forward a little bit. So we talk about up to 10. I think that's in my head. I think up to 10 years old, they think you're a hero. Like they think dad and mom can do all the things, and and then you start seeing a little bit of a change. So one thing that you had mentioned in I don't know if it was on your site or I think I might have seen it on your Instagram. You mentioned that we feel as they start getting to that teenage years, and now I'm going to talk to fathers, right? You start feeling like your daughter starts to want their space and distance. But you had mentioned that they may not actually want that. They just may need us differently.
Mm.
And can you give me a little bit more to that?
Yeah, I do truly believe that. I think where so many of us get stuck is, like you're saying, for the first 10 years, right? We parented a certain way. For the most part, we got really positive feedback on that. And so then all of a sudden they're now a preteen and we keep parenting that way. But the breakdown is that's not what they need from us anymore.
Right. Yeah.
They need different things. And so if you're noticing that they're pulling away, it's because we haven't figured out what they need and we're not meeting that need. So I'm thinking about a client of mine. He came to me and he was upset. He's like, listen, I don't have the relationship I want with my daughter. And I'm noticing that she has stopped coming to me and talking to me about anything. And she only goes to her mom. And I feel like they have this close relationship. But I want that. I want that back. We used to be so close and we used to have so much fun together. And now like she won't share anything with me or even look at me, and as we started unwinding that, it's like his daughter was just doing some things that was worrying him and concerning him. And his only tool of managing that was to like clamp down harder and give her like consequences. Like this is, that's it. You're grounded.
Yeah.
Or I don't remember what all the consequences he got, but he would get angry and frustrated with her. And so we just started with first the understanding that when you're angry or frustrated with your daughter, it comes from a place of worry and fear.
Right.
And so we kind of got to start there and admit that. And once we can do that, like that sort of settles our energy down. And so when you do go to talk to your daughter, she's not pulling away and acting like she doesn't need you anymore. That
is a great point. I had an incident where it was exactly that feeling. My daughter did something she didn't mean to worry me. But instantly in my head, it was you did something extremely dangerous near people that I don't know. Right. And so instantly I went to I sat back and thought about it and I apologized to her, but I sat back and I almost was able to see those exact things happen. It was, oh my gosh. Right. So the kind of a fear, and then the fear turned to anger, and then the anger is what came out. And so the point was completely lost in that because I raised my voice and it was just, I created a whole problem.
Yeah.
And the only way I got through that thought process was obviously stepping away. And I started thinking about it, like, oh, okay, I see exactly how I see what happened, but it was always, hindsight's 20/20, right? So I was like, oh, I see what happened. But it took a lot to realize like, oh, that was complete and utter fear of a dangerous situation that got interpreted by the anger side of me. And that's what actually came out.
Yeah. I'm so glad you shared that because that's really like a beautiful self-awareness to share with your audience because, that's hard to do what you did. But when you do have that, can self-reflect like that and you have that awareness, it's a game changer in your relationship. And, none of us are perfect. Many of us yell. I like to, just think about yelling's not the problem. The problem is if we don't have that moment afterwards and understand what's going on for us and then go back to our daughter and repair the situation. Right? The problem is if we don't do that process. It's not like you don't have to be all down on yourself or beat yourself up that you lost it. It's very understanding that if you're scared and you're worried about your child's safety, you might react with frustration or anger unintentionally. But, you can always go back and realize, okay, wait, that wasn't really how I wanted to show up.
Yeah.
And I'm going to go back and talk to her, and I'm going to apologize.
Right.
And I'm going to tell her, I didn't want to yell. I don't like that I yelled.
Mm-hmm.
And this, this is what was going on for me. And this is what I'm going to do differently next time.
Right.
So you take that accountability and responsibility for the way you behaved. And then you're also modeling for her how you can lose it sometimes, and that's okay. And how you go back and repair and take responsibility for your actions and repair and mend the relationship.
Well, my next thought in that is when it happens the other way around, right? So now we're talking about triggers. At least that's what comes to my mind, because now we get triggered by potentially raising of the voice, but then also eye rolls, silence, right? Or just the 206 muscles in the face that they cannot control, and they're saying yes, but their face is saying something else.
Yeah, the attitude.
Yes. So as us fathers, we're starting to see that. How do you recommend we show up in those moments? Because I can tell you, those are easy times where I have to physically step away and almost like tag my wife up, like, okay, she just did that face. I'm going to go over here real quick. Right. So then I'm not dealing with the situation, but I'm also not creating a bigger problem. But it's not avoidance. It's just trying to manage in that moment.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think the first thing that comes to my mind when you're talking about, the look on the face or the eye roll or the tone in their voice is, I'd get triggered pretty easily, like that they're being disrespectful.
Right.
And I didn't like that. So I think that's a normal response that we might have from their behavior. And if we notice that, coming up inside of ourselves, like, you can't talk to me like that, right? That's so disrespectful, any of those things, just to know, like, okay, yeah. So I'm triggered by the eye rolls or the door slamming, and that's because I'm human, and it's okay. And it's just, now what, right? Now, what do I want to do with the fact that I'm feeling disrespected at the moment? And I love that you shared that you tag teamed with your wife.
Yeah.
I 100% agree with you. That's not avoiding parenting.
Yeah.
It's actually one of the concepts that I teach, which is doing nothing is doing something.
Okay. I've heard of that before.
Yeah. And that's what you were doing.
Yeah.
You were preventing an explosion between the two of you.
It doesn't always work. The tag team is a technique I want to use more, but it doesn't always work.
And it's okay. Like, there's other options too. I was just on the phone with my client who said that she was about to lose it. And she just said, I need a minute. And she walked out, and she went into her bathroom and took a few deep breaths, until she could regroup. So she didn't say something that she regretted and sever the relationship, right? Because obviously none of us want to do that. So I love that you shared that. I agree with you. It's not avoiding. I actually think it's a very powerful parenting tool and skill to have in our toolbox.
Awesome.
But pulling back out to your big picture question, what do we do with the disrespect, whether it's the eye rolls or the attitude or whatever it is? So one concept that one of my philosophies that comes up often in coaching is we want to focus less on the behavior, the surface level behavior of the eye roll or the disrespect, and instead think about, what skill is my child missing that I could help them develop?
Okay.
So if my child has an outburst of anger, okay, they just haven't learned the skill of how to manage their anger in a healthy way. Or maybe the eye roll is because they feel like you're disappointed in them and they don't want to feel that way. And so they roll their eyes like as in, you know, nothing. But it's a response to this underlying feeling that's going on of, you know, you're disappointed in me, or maybe I don't want to disappoint you. And so then the surface level behavior that comes out can be some of those things that feel disrespectful. So when you tag team with your wife, if you can ask yourself, okay, so what skill is my daughter missing right now? I'm sure she doesn't intend to be disrespectful. You know, I don't think kids intend to lie or intend to get an F on a test. Like none of that feels good. No human wants that. But when we're being like, oh my, you know, you got an F on the test, you know, that's it. No more YouTube. I'm taking your phone. It's like, okay, wait, we're focusing and trying to address and give these punishments for the behavior versus, well, what skills were they missing or what's going on beneath the behavior, right? What are they thinking about? What are they feeling that's causing the eye roll or the disrespect? Right? Or the slam door or the attitude, whatever it is. There's so many different versions of it.
There's a ton of them. Yeah.
Yeah. What are your thoughts about that?
I do know that for myself, and again, I try to like look at, all right, what would I be doing? First of all, 12 years old, I wasn't arguing. I was probably outside doing some knucklehead thing and hoping not to get caught. But as I think through that, many times I know when I'm more easily triggered or upset, I know I can look back and like, I've got this going on. I've got this going on. I've got this going on. So personally, I can almost backtrack that. Right. I think it's the failure to do that with my daughters that comes into play. It was like, cause they're human too. And that's something that I think as parents, I know for me, I just sometimes forget that. Like, you're a child. Yep. Yeah, sure. But they're human. Right. And so it's the same concept. So, you know, and the thing that really irritates me now at like the point in my career is that we've been taught to do that. And you know, in my profession, we're taught to do that. Right. You're going to take care of people by, you know, if there's issues, start peeling the onion back and seeing what is the actual root cause of this issue, right? Or the outburst or what have you. And then we don't do that at home as much because the disrespect comes in, right? Or the triggers or whatever that might be. So I think you're right. I think being more intentional in that moment, and, you know, that the tag team, my wife, we've been married for 22 years. She knows there's times where she's like, all right, it's enough. Like, you need to go over there. Like, this is obviously not productive, you know, and so on and so forth. So she's awesome that way. But it is something that I think some of us dads lack, right? Of that view of, it's probably 3 other layers down that something is happening. And I actually got to that one time, meaning we had some issue at the house, and my daughter and I went somewhere and just having, you know, easy conversation. And somehow that started to populate. And I'm like, is that what's been bothering you for the last 3 days? And then that started the conversation, right? That I think that, to your point, that's when I started realizing, like, I need to start pulling back a little bit. And I guess the thing that is hard to do, we go back to the training, to our training, right? Good or bad or indifferent, our parents did what they knew to do at the time that they had it. But also, and again, it may be part of that, but when you talk about disrespect, for example, my job as a father, I think, is to be a representative of the world. Meaning, like, yes, you're safe here, but also when you go to the world, you're going to have consequences. You're going to have this and that. And I want to be able to teach you that or show you that. And so you go to and disrespect your boss, you get fired, or you get whatever, demoted, or, you know, what have you. How do we teach those things without allowing ourselves to be triggered by the disrespect, right? Because I know I've learned now, not everything has to be a lesson. But if your child is consistently disrespecting, yes, we want to start looking back and figuring out what the issue is. But at the moment, how do we bring that lesson forward? Like, listen, you can feel all the things you want to feel, but you cannot disrespect, right? So how do we do that as fathers, specifically with daughters?
Yeah. Well, I mean, what I know to be true after coaching hundreds of moms and dads is when you can help understand that root cause of the problem and where the disrespect is coming from, just like you did with your daughter through, the conversations that came out. When we can help them through that, then the disrespect subsides. There's no reason to be disrespectful when we can help them tap into what they're feeling and learn how to talk about it with you or to a friend or to journal about it or to manage those feelings in a way that's healthier. You're only getting the disrespect because they don't know what to do with these big feelings.
Yeah.
If they're feeling like, well, I've got to go be with these friends of mine, because if I don't, I'm going to be feeling left out and my dad's telling me I can't go. If you get to kind of that whole root cause, okay, well, let's have a conversation about your wants and desires and maybe how can we have a compromise there versus no, you can't go with your friends. You're going to get attitude back. It's like pushback. It's natural. But when we can have, like you had with your daughter, that more deep, meaningful conversation, you end up avoiding, they stop being disrespectful because they know how to communicate. They're learning how to communicate what they're really thinking and feeling. And they feel safe to do it, that you're not going to judge them or you're not going to be disappointed in that.
Yeah.
And so that's much more effective than, giving your life lesson or giving some sort of consequence. Like I think most of the time in my 59 years of experience, your kids are going to incur natural consequences. Right? I mean, if they fail a test, there's a lot of natural consequences to that, right? They still have to learn the information. They got to dig themselves out of a hole. If they want to go to college, they got to write their GPA. Like there's so many natural consequences. Like I don't need to pile on top of that. What were you thinking? You're never studying. That's it. You can't go out this weekend or whatever. Give me your phone or I shut the Wi-Fi off or right. It's like, they already have enough life consequences happening from a lot of their behavior. So it's not that there's never a time and place for us to talk about consequences or that there is a consequence. I guess my philosophy is that we want to have firm boundaries with our teenagers. Right? They're going to do risky stuff, like you mentioned your daughter did. Right? That's normal. So we want to be able to have some firm boundaries that they realize are based on our love for them and our number one job, which is keeping them safe. And then we want to stick to those boundaries, but we want to have a ton of compassion for them. Right? Which would be like, oh, honey, I understand. You really want to go out with your friends. I understand that. And that's got to be super frustrating that tonight's family dinner, and that's not a possibility. Right. But what is you can go out with them next Saturday night. Right. And you also get to have all the feelings about it. You can scream and you can yell and you can be mad like that. That's okay. And I have compassion for that, but at the same time, my firm boundary is like, this is what we're doing. It's family dinner night versus, why are you asking me that? Sunday's family dinner. Of course you can't be with your friends. Like it's just a very different approach where you're getting, you're still getting your point across, but in a way that maintains the connection and relationship between you and your daughter.
It sounds like you're talking about what we talked before about creating that safe harbor for them. Right. So I think that's something that is hard I know for me, it's been hard because and I'll take this thread just a little bit further, right? So,
hey, if you enjoy the Daughter Podcast, you'll love what we've got waiting for you at daughterpodcast.com. As soon as you visit, you'll be prompted to join our new email newsletter, a resource packed with valuable insights, practical tips, and powerful perspectives straight from our podcast episodes and incredible guests. Don't miss out on the chance to join the community and strengthen your journey as a father. Visit daughterpodcast.com today and subscribe, because great dads never stop growing.
talking about chores and consequences for me has been a big subject, because since she was little, and again, maybe to a fault, wrong or right, this is what I've done, right? I've always taught my oldest particularly, hey, everything has a consequence. You do something good, it has a good consequence. You do something bad, it has a bad consequence in your life. And it's just been kind of a thing with us, right? And she'll say, well, you did that, you're going to have a bad consequence. And then calls me out, and, she was growing up. And so we always had that. Now we do, the girls have chores. They have things that contribute to the family, household. They don't get paid for them. They're just things that everybody has to do because you live here. We're all a team here. Of course, the 5-year-old has, a very minuscule role in that, but nevertheless, I get, I forgot to do that. And it just, I tell you, Jeanine, it makes me go crawl up a wall. Because I'm like, what do you mean you forgot? This is literally an everyday thing.
Uh-huh.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And then, so talking to my wife, I'm like, all right, well, I'm not going to get angry about it. I'm just going to have a consequence. There's a boundary. You are not staying with that. So we're going to do this. So, all right, well, sorry, this didn't happen. I need your phone. And my oldest is the only one with a phone. She doesn't have any social media. It's just a connected device. But nevertheless, as you can imagine, that's her connection to her friends when she's not with her friends, right? And so that's my thing. Like, all right, I'm not going to get mad. I'm just going to tell you, you have to do this thing. You can either do it now without consequences, or you can still do it later with a consequence, right? It doesn't always work, but that's been my mindset. Like, well, I mean, there's a consequence to this, you choose, but this is it. And yet still, I forgot, or this, and then, you just give me a second chance and a third chance, and I can keep counting if you want. But like, how do we get to that? Right? When you're in your work, you're talking about creating this safe space for them and having, an area where they're kind of protected from the natural consequences that you talked about. Mm-hmm. But again, as a father, and I think a lot of us fathers feel that is, well, no, I've got to teach you this lesson. Like, there's no way you're going to get away with that because this is a safe space.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, I'm so glad you brought that up. I mean, you said so many wonderful things. I think chores are a great thing to do. And you mentioned the word family, a family system. Mm-hmm. And yeah, like, we're all a family. There's things that need to get done, and we're all going to contribute. Right. We're a family. I'm a huge advocate of like sitting down as a family and saying, here, hey, what do you think, to your daughters, what do you think are the things that need to get done? And, have them initiate and make a list and share. Okay. And then if they're missing things, right, that's when we can add to it. So now all of a sudden we have a family list, and then asking them, so what on the list are you willing to do? So they feel like they have buy-in, and, maybe one of your daughters doesn't mind doing the dishes and the other one doesn't mind cleaning up after the dog. Right. So you kind of get all this going in a way that's collaborative and teamwork. And then if it's at the point that you're now describing where she's like, I forgot, or I'll do it later, or give me another chance. Mm-hmm. I help my clients look at that as, okay, she's struggling to stick with her commitment and take responsibility for it. And so I want to have a conversation about that. So I might say something like, hey, you actually committed to emptying the dishwasher. I noticed it's still empty. What's stopping you?
Right.
That's how that's kind of my philosophy on how to approach parenting with something like that. The intention there is to do it, right? She said that she liked emptying the dishwasher. She actually volunteered to do for that chore, but it's not getting done. So we want to ask questions about, what's the struggle there?
Yep.
And help her work through the struggle.
Yeah.
Right. So I'd say what's stopping you? You're going to get a very different response than give me one more chance.
Right.
You're going to get an actual answer of what's blocking? Well, my friends are in the middle of talking right now. And, Jenny really needs my help. She's struggling with this boy issue. I have to talk to her. And all of a sudden you're like, oh, okay. That's more information. And I might think okay, well, it's okay then if she doesn't empty the dishwasher this minute, but I still want her to empty it.
Right.
So I'd say, okay, that makes sense. So when is a good time for you to empty the dishwasher? Or you want to close the conversation with the accountability piece.
Right.
You're still doing the chore. I'm not doing it for you. You still need to get it done. Yes. But I'm going to walk you through and see okay, you're struggling with doing that and help you figure out why. And then we're going to end cap it with you making a new commitment as to when that's going to get done. Right. So then if it's then a half hour later and she's still not doing it, you can calmly go back and say, oh, honey, you mentioned that you were going to get this done. Now I notice you're not getting done. What's stopping you?
Yeah.
Right. So I think I know that is more effective than taking their phone away. Because what happens when you take their phone away is you're darn right. In the short term, she's going to go empty that dishwasher because she wants her phone back.
Right.
But in the long run, we're missing this whole opportunity of her learning about taking responsibility and being accountable for when she says she's going to do something to actually do it. Instead, she's just doing it to get her phone back.
Right.
And so you're not changing the root cause of the problem in the first place.
Right. And to be fair, I didn't let them choose the chore, right? The room is theirs, so they have to keep it up. And then there's a few chores that get done through the house, and maybe I didn't have them buy in. It was just kind of this is yours, get at it.
I do think we make it more difficult on ourselves when we don't approach chores and everything that needs to get done around the house as a family unit and have a family discussion on these are the things that need to get done. What does everyone want to pitch in with? I think we just set ourselves up for more success that way versus you have to clean your room. You need to set the table. Why haven't you, cleaned up after the dog? It's all of a sudden you've pitted yourself, you versus your daughter, versus we're all a team working on this together. And, I'm mom over here and I'm going to go do the grocery shopping and I'm going to do the dinner, and dad's over here. He committed to washing the dishes and you committed to do this, daughter, and this daughter, so that when you can help them feel like we're all in this together. And for this home to run smoothly, we all need to be good roommates.
I suppose you're right. That is a good point.
Yeah. So,
well, Jeanine, I know we're coming short on time here, and I just want to ask you, what is the number one thing, number two thing, what you put it wherever you want, that you think is important for fathers of daughters to be thinking as they're going into teenage years or maybe already into those years?
Yeah. Oh, there's so many things, but if I were to try to hit some of the big ones, I think the first thing that comes to mind is just the more you can focus, or the less you can focus on criticizing or judging her or using sarcasm. And the more you can just be very supportive and encouraging and compassionate for her struggles, I think it's going to go a long way. Okay. If you want to, you're modeling basically her first relationship with somebody of the opposite sex. And so I think that's a great reminder, is I want to be the person I want to interact with my daughter and be the person that's similar to the person if she, chooses to marry a man, that's, who she chooses and what she does.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, if you're responding to her with, judgment or yelling or screaming, like, you probably don't want her husband to do that.
Mm.
So I think oftentimes, there is no one right way, but if you just do that check and balance with yourself, that's going to teach her and show her like, this is what you should expect how a man should treat you.
Gotcha.
And I think that really goes a lot with their self-confidence and their expectations, especially when they head off to college and they might be getting pressured to do things. If they've got ingrained in them that, no, my dad loved me for who I am. And he always showed respect for me. If he disagreed with something I did, he didn't yell at me. Like, we had a conversation about it. If I made a mistake, like, he wasn't disappointed in me. He was compassionate about it and showed empathy and helped me find a solution. So I didn't do that again next time. Right. So if you can lead with some of those things, I think you're just setting yourself up for success and also your relationship so that, you can have what I have with my dad. And we're so close all these years later. We talk all the time. I love to call him and share my wins and my struggles. And I mean, I'm proud to say that I've worked on really hard on creating that with my 3 kids who are now young adults, and they enjoy family time together, and I get to hear their wins and their struggles and help walk them through that. And if they feel like we're going to be disappointed in them or we're going to judge them or give them a punishment, they're not going to want to come to us and have that relationship with us. So not just we have to find a better way, but there are better ways.
Right. Yeah. That's great advice, Jeanine. Thank you for that.
Yeah.
Tell us where people can find you. I know that you've got a lot of work going on with parents, particularly of teens. Where can we find you, and where can people get connected to you in the webs and social media and all that stuff?
Yeah, thanks for asking. Yeah, so I coach moms and dads of preteens to young adults. And you can find me the best places on my website, which is JeanineMouchawar.com. I know you said you'd put the link in the notes.
Yes.
I think for your audience who's connected to you on Instagram, I'm sure we'll go and follow each other. I think we already have, but I'm Jeanine.theparentingcoach. So you can find me through Oscar's followers.
Yes.
And then, the best place really is my website. It'll connect you to, I run a Facebook group, and I'm on a few of the different platforms. I love to do just 10-minute snippets on YouTube that gives you, I bring up an issue that's going on that I'm hearing a lot, like, how do I get my kid off their phone? Yeah. And then, offer some suggestions of what you can do, in those situations. So YouTube's a great place too. Have you watched some of those?
Yes, those are great because they literally say what I'm asking. It's really cool. Yes, that's awesome.
Good. Well, I've been through it with my 3 children, so I know what the issues are. And after coaching hundreds of people, I know what the hot buttons are. Perfect. So I love supporting moms and dads through these years because they're messy and they're hard. And it's not just, what do I say and what do I do in terms of parenting my child, but how do I navigate my own exhaustion and worry and anger and fear? Like, we got to start there before any parenting approach is effective or not. So it's hard.
Yes, absolutely. And that's why the Daughter Podcast is here, because we do have to work on us to figure out how to be better for them. Absolutely. And of course, we're going to have all of those links in the show notes for everyone to click through and get to Jeanine's page as quickly as possible, because trust me, you're going to want to go in there and get these little tools to put in your pocket. So we'll have those all set up for you. Of course, Jeanine.
Yeah, I also wanted to just offer, your audience, I have a guide called 5 Questions to Get Your Teen Talking. And so if you're feeling like, I don't know what's going on and now I'm freaking out and worried, like, there's a couple of questions in there that are so helpful. They're ones that all my clients use, and it opens up the door to get those conversations going. So you really can get to a lot of what we talked about today, the root cause of if there is a struggle.
Yeah.
I'd love to share that with your audience as well.
That's awesome. Thank you so much for that. And again, we'll put that at the bottom of the show notes for you all to get to right away. Jeanine, thank you so much for your time. Thank you for spending your time here with the Daughter Podcast and our community of growing fathers that are just trying to figure out how to be better. I can't thank you enough for being with us.
Oh, thank you for having me. And I hope you and your community know how grateful that we are and that your children will be, that you're being so intentional and trying to just show up in the best dad you can. So thank you for having me. It's been an honor.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you so much, Jeanine. I hope you guys took a lot of notes and put a lot of tools in your pocket. But if you didn't, you'll be able to listen to this over and over again at daughterpodcast.com. Until next time, we'll see you later.
This has been the Daughter Podcast. Be sure and share this show with a friend. Like, subscribe, follow us on social media, and leave us a review. For everything Girl Dad, head over to daughterpodcast.com. That's daughterpodcast.com.